Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present
Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Mark Stevens in Tree of Life, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense. Radio's outstanding theater of thrills is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A. Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine for friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Mark Stevens in a remarkable tale of
Suspense.
Everything went wrong. From the very beginning, everything that possibly could went wrong. Because, you see, I'd already planned for quite a while to kill my wife. The first thing was the doors. And that's funny, too, because that was the thing that had impressed me most about the new place, the doors. The house was a double bungalow, twin apartments, really, white stucco with two doors in the front center. The doors were exactly alike, made of modern yellow wood studded with nails. The nails spread out in a Tree of Life pattern. Tree of Life. I could still see Helen standing with her slim, elegant figure silhouetted against the door, her hair blending with its warm color and her blue eyes burning with that strange, acquisitive fire I'd once mistaken for passion.
Isn't it a beautiful door, Jimmy? I really think I'm clever to have found it. You know, it's definitely the smartest place we've ever had. Oh, don't just stand there, darling. Come on. You'll positively love the inside. You see? See, the entrance hall and the living room can be thrown into one. Oh, Jimmy, we can have the most stunning parties.
The bedrooms to the back?
3 rooms, small dressing room, 2 baths. Of course, we'll have to buy some new furniture to go with the house. Most of our old pieces simply won't belong.
Say, it's awfully dark back here.
Oh, nonsense, darling. It's just cloudy today. Besides, you'll love it when you want to sleep late on Sunday. That's why I'm giving you the center room. I'm taking the front one with the dressing room.
The corner room with the 3 windows.
Oh, that'll be the guest room, darling. Mom and the girls will be coming in every so often, you know. And you want to bring home some of your business associates, you know.
I never have.
Don't you see? Now you can, darling. Jimmy Dawson, I'm not going to let you be an old stick in the mud anymore. We're going to have a wonderful winter. There's a young couple in the other part. Their name's Roxborough. I think that's what the agent said. Anyway, I saw her from a distance. She seems to be a perfectly stunning brunette. Just our sort. Imagine the 4 of us will do lots of things together. Now, admit it. Admit it. The house is priceless, isn't it?
Yeah, of course, Helen. But isn't there some small room where I might do some...
Painting?
Yeah.
We've discussed this before. It's not healthy for you to bring your work home with you. And besides, this is much too lovely a house to mess up.
Well, I don't mean advertising layouts. I want to try some real work. Creative work, Helen.
I've told you what I think about it, Jimmy. I want to make your home your castle, darling. I want it to be a place for you to relax, away from work. We must concentrate now on gracious living. Of course, it's your home. If you feel you must.
No, skip it.
Of course, darling. From now on, it's gracious living. Remember?
Sure. Gracious living. I'd already begun to make some plans for Helen. For killing Helen, that is, when we moved into the new house 2 weeks later. I rode the Interurban to work that day and left the car with Helen. She said she needed it to move some of our smaller, more breakable treasures. I offered to stay and help her with the moving, but Helen said I'd be in the way. I ate dinner in town and rode the Interurban back and walked the 7 blocks to my new home. I hated it more with each step I took. When I got there, the shades were down. The lights were out on both sides, which meant Helen was out again. I stood outside for a while, not wanting to go in. Finally, I started up the steps, but the doors made me pause. I suddenly realized I didn't know which was my door. I felt like a fool. Supposing I were to go barging in on the Roxboroughs or whatever their name was. Certainly they'd think I was a fool. All I could do was choose one of the doors. I was just fumbling at the lock with my key when the door opened from the inside. I couldn't see the man who had opened it very well, but I could see the gun he held in his hand. It was the biggest gun I've ever seen in my life.
Come in.
Why,
Come in.
After he closed the door, the man with the gun switched on the lights.
Hey, what?
Then I saw the other one. He was big, with a lot of black hair and an angry face. He had a gun, too. Kept fooling with it, spinning the cylinder. He was standing in front of the couch, trying to hide something. Something lying there covered up with an overcoat. But I knew what it was. I saw the hand trailing down on the floor, a woman's hand.
And just who are you?
I'm...
You heard him. Who are you?
Is that my wife?
Oh, so you're Roxborough, huh? You're supposed to be halfway to Chicago by now.
Roxborough. Well. Cute, ain't he? Curly hair and everything. Real cute.
Look, I made a mistake. The door.
What do you know about that? He thinks he made a mistake, Rico.
What kind of mistake you think you made, Curly?
What kind of a mistake? You fixed this thing all up with our boss, the day, the time, the alibi, the works. And then you walked right in the middle of it. Oh, yeah. Hey, you made a mistake, all right, Curly.
The biggest mistake you ever made in your life.
Maybe the last, too, huh, Rico? Maybe the last. Who knows?
For a minute, they both just stood and looked at me. Oh, I'd made a mistake, all right. Here I'd gone and stumbled in on a job being done by a couple of hired killers. The job of killing his wife for Roxborough. My neighbor, Roxborough. And they thought I was Roxborough. Even that wasn't the worst. As long as they thought I was Roxborough, I might be able to make a deal. But if they ever found out I wasn't Roxborough, the end of the line, I had to be Roxborough.
Any last words, Curly?
Now, wait a minute. Honest, I made a mistake.
You said that.
We don't like those kinds of mistakes in our business. You can see how that'd be, can't you?
But listen, if it wasn't a mistake, why else would I come home right when...
Oh, go ahead. You can say it. It don't matter now.
Right when we're knocking off your wife, huh, Curly?
I bet you I know. I bet she likes to play hero, huh, Rico?
Hero?
Sure. You come home, you find burglars. That's us. And we just knocked off your wife, so you knock us off. You're a hero. Get it?
You ought to be in Hollywood, Bud, where they pay for that stuff.
Well, you better tell Curly that I ain't making it up. Because a poor guy tried that on us once, Curly. The poor guy.
But I couldn't have meant anything like that. I don't even have a gun. I don't even have a jackknife. Listen. Why can't we make some kind of a deal?
There's a rod in the desk. Maybe you figured on using that, huh, Curly?
Hey, wait a minute, Rico. Curly here said something about a deal.
I don't like deals. The boss don't like deals. I like the other way. It's cleaner all around.
Turn around, Curly.
No, wait.
Relax. I just want to frisk you this time.
He started going over my pockets, and that was all right. Till he came to my wallet and took it. My wallet? With driver's license, social security card, every identification under the sun to prove that I wasn't Roxborough, but James Dawson. If he ever looked inside, I was finished. I had to do something to distract his attention. I had to do it right then.
Hey, where you going?
Oh, I just wanted to look.
At her?
Yeah.
Maybe Curly thinks we don't know our jobs, huh, Max?
Go ahead. Take a look.
Take a good look. It might be somebody you know.
I walked over to the couch. I lifted the coat off her face. I looked. And I put the coat back again. I felt sick. I hadn't needed more than one look to know that she was dead. And I knew something else. I knew my chances of getting out of this alive had gone down about 90%.
Well, you satisfied?
He looks kind of sick, Max.
Maybe he's a sensitive type.
You know, these sensitive guys are funny. They don't mind having it done. Oh, no, that don't worry him a bit. But the guy that does it because he needs a few bucks, he's just a big ape. A guy with no feelings. Ain't that right, Curly?
I'm not complaining.
He's not complaining. Well, that's something anyway. Huh, Max? He's not complaining.
Oh, yeah, that's good. But a minute ago he was talking about a deal. I'd like that better.
We got work to do. We can talk about deals later, and I still say no deal.
Maybe we ought to ask Curly. You want us to finish this job up right, don't you, Curly?
Oh, sure. Ask Curly.
Finish the job?
Sure, collect the ice.
You don't know what that means, do you, Curly?
The jewelry, the silverware, the stuff that makes it look like burglars. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Where does she keep it?
Why, in her bedroom, I guess.
You guess.
Oh, these sensitive guys are great guessers, Rico. But you better have guessed right, Curly.
Come on inside.
All right, now where is it?
I think the dressing table.
Take a look, Rico.
Yeah. Well, looky here. He guessed it right on the nose.
Oh, Curly's sharp. Yeah, sharp he is.
There's some real pretty ice here, too. I bet this was her engagement ring, huh, Curly?
You got the stuff. You don't have to talk about it.
Oh, wait a minute. You got the wrong attitude, Curly. You knew this was part of the deal. We get part of our cut out of this stuff.
Hey, I tell you what I did with that sapphire, Max.
What's sapphire?
The Allison job, the place you got the garnets.
Oh, yeah.
I had it made into a pin for my kid. I gave it to her for graduation. She was crazy about it.
Your kid?
Sure, I got a couple of swell kids, boy and a girl. Smart, too.
Maybe that's the trouble with these sensitive guys, huh, Rico? No kids.
I wanted 4.
But she didn't, huh? Well, that's the way it goes sometimes.
I bet she'd have figured it a little different if she'd have known how it was going to turn out for her. Huh, Curly?
Yeah, maybe she would.
All right, now listen, we got work to do, the rest of the house. Now, how about the deal?
Never mind the deal. What are we going to do with him while we're working?
Lock him in here. You wouldn't try to holler or anything like that, would you, Curly?
Oh, no, I won't.
You see, I told you, he's sharp. He's going to think over the deal while we're gone.
I tell you, I don't like it.
How do you know? You haven't heard it yet.
Oh.
Now, listen, Curly. There's 2 ways. First is Rico's way. Quick, clean. You know what I mean?
I know.
The other way, you pay us $5,000.
But I haven't got $5,000.
With a setup like this, with the business you got, you can raise it. And you'd better, too.
I still like my way better.
See what I mean, Curly? Think it over. Come on, Rico.
Maybe I better stay here and watch him.
If you watch him, who's going to watch me?
I see what you mean.
And don't try nothing funny, Curly.
Because I still like my way better.
I like my way better. I knew he wasn't kidding. He'd already killed once tonight. There's already 1 dead body in the house. There could just as easy be another. There could be me.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Mark Stevens in Tree of Life. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. Here's an easy way to return the compliment of the friendly hospitality you've enjoyed over the holidays. Simply invite your holiday hosts to an open house and delight them with Roma California wines. Yes, you're sure to please every guest with better-tasting Roma sherry, port, or muscatel because more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. The reason? Roma wines taste better because Roma starts with choicest grapes. Because Roma vintner skill and America's finest winemaking resources guide this grape treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Because Roma selects at peak taste richness from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. No wonder Roma wines are America's favorites. So for smart, gracious hospitality at your thank you party, be sure to serve Roma. R-O-M-A. Roma Wines, by America's greatest vintner.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Mark Stevens in Tree of Life. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
So I sat there waiting, locked in a bedroom by a couple of hired killers while they ransacked the house for loot. All because I had just moved into a two-family house with two front doors that had that Tree of Life design on each one exactly alike. All because these gunmen thought I was my neighbor Roxborough, who had hired them to kill his wife. Well, they'd done their best, all right. There's the dead body on the couch in the front room right now. That was why I had to make a deal somehow. That dead body. And more than that, if I did manage to put it over, I had to have money to get away. Because I knew I had to go far away for a long time. They had my wallet. But there was just the off chance there might be some in the room here somewhere. She must have had money. I started going over the room with a fine-tooth comb. The closet, inside of shoes, hat boxes, under the mattress, any place, every place in the room might be liable to hide money. In the bottom bureau drawer, I found a letter pocketbook. It had 2 affectionate notes from some guy named Steve, and that was all. I gave up. I went back to sit down in front of the dressing table again. I knocked something on the floor. It's a powder box. One of those musical things that keeps playing some gimmick tune over and over until they run down. There was powder in a little heap spilled on the floor. There was something else. Buried in all that powder was what I'd been looking for. A roll of bills, nearly $400. I just about had time to stuff them in my pocket when I heard the 2 gunmen galloping down the hall.
What are you doing in there?
Hold it, Rico.
Huh?
All right, what's the idea?
I just a little nervous, I guess. I knocked that thing on the floor, see?
Well, put it back together again.
Sure.
What do you know? He's nervous. What are you nervous about, Curly?
My wife's got one of them things, too. Made me get it for her last Christmas.
Did it make you nervous like Curly?
Curly ain't nervous about that. You got a way to get that $5,000, Curly?
I can't get the cash right away.
Well, maybe we could take a note, huh, Rico?
Huh? Oh, yeah, note. Sure, maybe we could.
Come on, Curly. You're going to come out here and write us a nice little note.
All right.
Now, sit down there at the desk. Make yourself real comfortable.
Maybe you better tell him how the note should go.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I should. Now, Curly, all you got to do is write us a nice little note telling how you killed your wife.
How I killed my wife?
He don't think he did kill his wife.
Maybe he thinks we did.
But if I did that, you could blackmail me. You could keep blackmailing me.
You see, I told you he was sharp. You know, this thing has got to be said right so one can believe it. Right, Curly?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. Now, you're going to sit right down there and write how you and your wife was always getting in your hair, you know. You was always having fights, and finally, you had a real big one tonight, and you hit her over the head with a bottle. Only you hit her a little too hard, see?
Is that how she...
You don't think we use these things unless we have to, do you? It's too noisy.
Oh, we don't want to cause you no trouble, understand, Curly? We just want to be sure you do raise that $5,000, see?
Yeah, I see, but... Well, if it came to a showdown, how would you explain the note?
Very sharp, very sharp. You see what I mean, Rico? Curly wants to know, if we turn him in, how do we tell the cops we got the note?
Easy. We make a deal with a guy who's got to take a rap for burglary anyway. Says he burgled this place, too, and found the note. We bought it from him. Get it?
I get it.
Then start writing.
For a minute, I sat there thinking. I wasn't too worried about the handwriting. The chances that Roxborough had been fool enough to write anything in his own hand that these mugs had ever seen was pretty slim. And it couldn't do me any harm, writing a confession in another man's name. So I began to write. And I stopped thinking about Roxborough and his wife. Began thinking about Helen and 5 wasted years. The opportunities missed, the friends lost, the time gone down the drain. All because of Helen and what she thought was gracious living. Gracious living. When I got through it was a pretty good note.
Let me see it. Here, huh? Okay. It almost sounds like you meant it, Curly.
I did.
Okay. Sign it.
Huh?
I said sign it.
Sign it? I couldn't sign it. I didn't know Roxborough's first name. They'd know that. one thing they'd be sure to know. I could have cried. To get this far, freedom almost in sight, and then to have it end this way, I just sat there holding the pen.
What's the matter? Cold feet?
Yeah, maybe.
Come on, sign it.
Well,
And not K. Roxborough, like that little printed note you sent the boss. The full name.
Not K. Roxborough, the full name.
What's the K for, Curly? Kenneth?
No. No, it's Kendall. Is that all?
No, that's not all.
Oh, no, the $5,000.
That's the idea. That's my shop, boy, the $5,000.
Well, I don't know where I can lay my hands on that much cash tonight.
Well, cash was sort of what we had in mind, Curly.
I could write you a check.
No checks.
Hey, wait a minute. I think he's got something there. Yeah, he could date it ahead. He could say he gave it to his wife for a mink coat or something, and it was stolen by them nasty burglars. You could think up something, couldn't you, Curly? You better.
Why can't we get the cash from him tomorrow?
Because Curly's got to be in Chicago tonight for sure. If the cops snap him for this job, what good is that little note he just wrote us, huh?
Oh, yeah. Okay, Curly, write a check.
Sure.
To, cash.
Yeah. 5,000. Kendall Roxborough.
Okay. Now we're going to do you a favor, Curly. We're going to take you down and put you on that next train to Chicago.
How do we know we won't take a powder and never come back?
And leave this nice business of his? Oh, Curly wouldn't do that, would you, Curly?
No, of course not.
Okay, then let's go. I don't like sticking around here with that.
She can't hurt you. She can't hurt nobody. Even Curly, if he's smart.
They went around wiping off fingerprints, even mine. Now, they were very good about that. And they snapped off the lights, opened the door, snapped that behind them, too.
Harvey, are you sure this is the Dawson's new place?
I know, you said you were.
I heard their voices first. Then I saw them. Lillian and Harvey Reynolds. I tried to step back, out of the streetlight, but the two gunmen pushed me forward. I just kept my head down and prayed.
Excuse me.
Hey, what's the matter, Lil?
I bumped into someone.
Come on, let's go home.
I want to know who I bumped into. You know, it's awfully dark, but he looks like Jimmy.
Hey, are you Jimmy?
No.
See, Lil, come on, let's go home.
I think he's Jimmy. Who are your friends, Jimmy?
They're not Jimmy. They're not my friends.
Must be relatives. Don't you think so, Harvey? Must be relatives.
Oh, come on, Lil, let's go home.
Sounds like Jimmy. If you're not Jimmy, where is Jimmy?
I don't know.
Oh. Well, I'm going to find Jimmy.
I beg your pardon, madam. I think I know where he is.
What?
Where is he? Where's Jimmy?
You're just a little mixed up. Now, if you go 5 blocks up the street, then 4 blocks over, it's the big yellow house on the corner.
Come on, Harvey. I told you we'd find Helen and Jimmy.
Doggone it, Lil, I want to go home.
I sure feel sorry for Jimmy if she finds him.
So do I. We drove down the station. Found that the next train for Chicago was in about 45 minutes. One of them went in with me while I got my ticket. Then we just stood out there in the darkness on the platform and waited. When the train finally pulled in, they walked me down to my car and stood there with me in the vestibule until the train was ready to pull out.
Take it easy now, Curly. And about that check. Yeah.
That better be good.
Yeah. Because if it ain't, we'll be waiting for you when you come back.
What did I care where they'd be? I was free. Well, I was going to Chicago, all right. But from there, I was going to catch a train to Detroit. From there, I was going to cross the Canadian border. I was never coming back because I'd made it. I was free. I got in Chicago, all right. I got a train for Detroit last night. I was walking through the observation car, not paying much attention to anything except look for a seat, when somebody slapped me on the shoulder.
Well, if it isn't Dawson.
Huh?
Oh, yes, maybe you don't know me, Mr. Dawson. I know you, at least by sight. I'm your next-door neighbor, Kent Roxborough.
Kent Roxborough?
Mm-hmm. Well, small world these days, isn't it? I suppose you're out this way on business like me, huh? I stayed over in Chicago last night. Got a good room for a change, too. Then I thought I might just as well clear up a couple little things out in Detroit.
Listen, Roxborough, I got to talk to you.
Of course, old man. Come on, let's find a seat.
No, not here.
What's the matter, old boy? Trouble?
Listen, I ran into those men last night by mistake. Those men you sent to see your wife.
What? What in the world are you talking about? I never sent any...
Okay, it's all right. I understand why you did it. I was thinking of doing the same thing myself, but I walked in on them by mistake. They told me all about it. They thought I was you.
Let's you and me take a little stroll out onto the observation platform, Dawson.
Yeah, sure.
Now, what's all this, Dawson?
I tell you, it was a mistake. The doors, they're exactly alike.
Yeah, I remember.
I walked in. They thought I was you. They'd already done it. They thought I'd come back to double-cross them. So they made me sign a confession that I'd done it in your name.
Confession?
Oh, it's all right. It's in my handwriting, not yours. I even got your first name wrong. I had to write them a check, too. $5,000.
You say they'd done it. You know that.
Yeah, I saw her. So I'm going away. Canada. I'm never coming back.
Yeah. You're going away, all right, Dawson.
No, don't shoot. There's something else. They didn't... Oh! They didn't... They found me beside the tracks this morning. They say I may live until tonight, maybe even a little longer. I guess I can't blame him. The cops picked him up. He'll get his. So will those two hired killers. I guess he thought he had to do it once he knew that I knew. I guess I can't blame anyone but myself. I guess it's what you call retribution. Because I'd planned to kill my wife. I'd have done it, too, I guess. But what he didn't give me time to tell him was that it wasn't me that got the wrong door. It was the gunman. It wasn't me that got into his house. It was the gunman that got into mine. It wasn't his wife they killed. It was mine. Gracious living, Helen had always talked about it. Now Gracious dying. I guess that's what you'd call it. Retribution.
Suspense.
Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wines. And now this is Ken Niles making a curtain call with the star of tonight's suspense play, Mark Stevens. Mark, I'm sure that Mr. Webster gave the world the word suspense just to describe a dramatic performance such as you've given us here tonight.
Oh, thank you very much, Ken. It was a wonderful part. And I've noticed that you make it a custom here on Suspense to provide your guests with the most wonderfully dramatic roles.
And there's another suspense custom I'm sure you'll enjoy. Each week we present our star with a gift basket of Roma wines. This is yours, Mark, with the compliments of Roma, America's greatest vintner.
Oh, and a pleasant custom it is, too.
Well, pleasantest of all is the enjoyment you share with friends when you serve the delicious Roma California port in your basket. For Roma port adds warmth to any welcome. Roma port is the favorite of millions for evening entertaining. And Roma port is so easy to serve. All you do is pour, and hospitality reigns.
Oh, it sounds like Roma port is a host's best friend.
Indeed it is, Mark. And Roma port tastes so good. In fact, all Roma wines are famous for better taste. And here's the reason. Roma vintners with ancient skill and America's finest winemaking resources guide the rich treasure of choicest grapes to tempting taste perfection. Then, at peak taste richness, Roma selects from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines for your pleasure. No wonder more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
Well, the popularity of Roma wine speaks for itself, Ken. And thank you very much, and good night.
Tonight's suspense play was written by J. Douglas Ware. Mark Stevens will soon be seen in the 20th Century Fox Technicolor production, I Wonder Who's Kissing Her Now. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Mr. Dan Duryea as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
Yes, Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines presents Suspense.
Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Mr. Dan Duryea in The Will to Power, a suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Dan Duryea in a remarkable tale of suspense.
I walked over to the safe and began to dial the numbers. Before I snapped it open, I turned round to look at him. He was leaning back in the easy chair at the end of the room. His greasy face was covered with a shrewd smile, and he poured a revolver in his right hand.
Come on, get it open.
The gun looked like a model they stopped making in 1900. A .22 with a 2-inch barrel. There were about 40 feet between the safe and where he was sitting. Unless that guy was an Annie Oakley, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from that position. And with that gun...
All right, quit stalling. Open it.
I snapped open the little safe, and there it was. I could see Special Super 38 Automatic stamped on the blued surface of the slide. The hammer was back, just as I knew the old man had left it. I picked up that beautiful precision instrument. I turned, not too quickly, snapped off the safety and brought the sights in line between our eyes.
Hey, wait! Wait, don't! The letter! The letter!
He lay there on the floor. I looked at him, and I had that strange feeling that I had overlooked something. Something important. I walked over to where he was lying. He'd pitched forward, landing in a disjointed heap. The letter. What had he yelled about a letter? It meant nothing to me. A letter? Had I slipped up somewhere? No, it was impossible. I must have stood there over his body for 10 minutes, for the blood was soaking its way across the carpet. I tried to think of how I stood now, of what I had to do next. But my mind wouldn't let me. It kept slipping back to 3 months ago. 3 months ago. 3 months ago. Old man Donovan was in a pretty bad mood that night. He and his wife, Roseanne, were scrapping. They stopped as I came into the living room.
And that final... Oh, Charles, come in.
Hello, Charles.
Hello, Mrs. Donovan. I finished going over these papers, Mr. Donovan.
Ah, good. They look okay.
Yes, sir.
Have you seen Mrs. Donovan's bank statements around anywhere?
No, I haven't run across them.
Oh, she's been overdrawing again. We've got to get this straightened out once and for all.
I tell you, I haven't been overdrawing. How many times do I have to tell you?
Don't argue with me. Charles, will you see if you can find them somewhere?
I don't know where they are.
Well, of course you don't know where they are. Look for them. What do I have a private secretary for?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I'm going to bed now. I want those statements in the morning, do you understand? Well, good night, Roseanne.
Good night, John. Charlie,
Come here.
I can't stand it any longer. I can't live in the same house with him and see you around every day.
Now, is that a nice way to talk about your ever-loving husband?
Tell you, I just can't stand it anymore.
Yeah, this is no good. He's going to talk down to me once too often. I've got to get out of here before that happens.
That's what I've been telling you. Charlie, let's run away. Take a plane to South America tomorrow. We could be together from then on. Let's do that, Charlie. I have a little money, and I have my jewels and the furs. We could get along. Let's do it. Let's call for tickets now.
Run away?
Look, Charlie, isn't our happiness together the most important thing? Let's just leave him. We could go to Mexico. He loves his bank books and bank statements and stocks and bonds more than me anyway. Can't we do it that way? Can't we?
No, baby. We can't.
Well, what are we going to do? I can't go on with him. What can we do? Charlie.
Yeah, baby. That's it. You're reading my mind.
Oh, Charlie, that's...
That's the only way. Is that what you want to say?
I don't know. I don't know.
But I know, baby. You haven't got a thing to worry about. You look beautiful in black. There wasn't much time to waste. I couldn't take any chances on him catching on. If we were going to do it my way, we'd have to do it soon. I began to make plans. I told her we were going to push him out the window. I told her everything. Everything except about the poison. I was ready. I bought the poison, and now only had to slip it into the old man's medicine. At 6 o'clock that night, the phone rang. I knew that was Judge Peters. I picked him to establish my alibi for me.
Hey, phone, Charles.
Yes, sir. It's probably Judge Peters. He told me he wanted to see me tonight. But if I'm to finish your letters... Well, sir, could you perhaps tell him that I'm not here?
Huh?
It'd be simpler, and I have so much of your work to finish that I...
Why, sure, Charles. Yeah? Judge Peters.
The old man swallowed it hook, line, and sinker.
You all right?
He liked little intrigues. They were the only adventure in his life. Except for Roseanne.
I'm sorry, Judge. Charles isn't here. I haven't seen him all day, and I don't expect to see him tonight. All right, Judge. Yes, I'll tell you. Good night. We fixed that, huh?
Yes, sir. I think it's better this way. Now I'll be able to finish those letters for you.
Oh, fine. Say, fix me my medicine first, will you, Charles?
All right, sir. You want soda with it?
Uh-huh.
Enough?
A little more. Ah, that's it. Now. That's good. You're only a fair secretary, Charles, but you're a swell butler.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll get busy on these reports.
Take him down to your room?
Yes, sir, I can work better down there.
All right. Oh, I say, make a note to dump my consolidated steel bonds tomorrow.
Yes, sir. Don't you worry. I'll take care of everything tomorrow. As I walked out the door, I saw him take a sip out of his glass. The next couple of hours, I'd have a lot of work to do. I walked down the stairs instead of taking the elevator. No one had seen me enter, and no one was going to see me leave. My whole plan hinged on leaving without being noticed. I went out the side door. She was waiting for me outside just as we'd arranged. It was exactly 15 minutes after 6. So far, my timing was perfect. I took her through the hotel lobby, over to the elevator. Will you be all right?
I'll be all right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Will you see that Mrs. Donovan gets off at her floor all right? She's not feeling too well.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Oh, say, do you happen to have the time? My watch must have stopped.
Let's see. That's 20 after 6.
Thanks. Thanks a lot. I'll be up in about an hour, Mrs. Donovan.
Going up.
That was that. Now all I had to do was to stall for time. I walked around for a while. Between 6:30 and 7, I went into some stores where I was known. I said hello to some people, just in case anyone checked. Then I walked around some more. The minutes dragged by. I must have looked at my watch 50 times during that hour and a half. At 8, I went back to the hotel. As I stepped into the elevator, I really noticed the elevator man for the first time. He was big and greasy. I had to make sure he wouldn't forget what time I went upstairs. He made the first move as the elevator began to go up. That was luck.
Get your watch fixed, sir?
Oh, sure. Says 7:30.
It's still not working.
No?
It's almost 8 now.
How do you like that? It must have stopped again. Almost 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Charlie, where have you been? There's something wrong with John. He keeps moaning and holding his stomach. He wants me to call a doctor.
Stall him for a minute.
What can be wrong with him?
Search me, baby.
I'm so glad you came. Help me to my bed, Charles. Call a doctor for me, will you?
Relax, old man. I'll get him in a minute.
Are you going to do it now? Do you think we better do it now, Charlie?
Charles, for the love of heaven, get a doctor. Don't just let me die here. Roseanne, please get a doctor.
Charlie, I can't.
I'm so sorry.
I'm going to lose my nerve.
Help me get him over to the window.
No,
Charles, what are you going to do? No, Charles. No.
That's it, Roseanne. Up on the sill.
No.
Now, push. Push. You know everything now, don't you? I just come in. He fell. We were on the other side of the room. There was nothing wrong with him before the accident. Get it? Get it?
Yes.
I looked at her standing there. She was shaking, frightened half to death. And yet her face had a reddish glow, like something warm and mellow. The kind of stuff you feel in your dreams. At that moment, I wouldn't have traded her in for anything. Anything less than $1 million.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Dan Duryea in The Will to Power. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. A friend, famed for her enjoyable little dinners, recently told me her secret of gracious hospitality. Because she's usually busy in the kitchen after guests arrive, her husband keeps their friends pleasantly entertained until dinner time by serving Roma California sherry. Yes, she's a smart hostess. For better tasting Roma sherry is the favorite of millions as the perfect first call for dinner and for entertaining any time. For Roma sherry, like all Roma wines, begins with choicest grapes. Then Roma vintner skill and America's finest winemaking resources guide this luscious grape treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, at peak taste richness, Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. So share with your guests the better taste of Roma California wines. Roma sherry, port, muscatel, or Tokay. Insist on Roma, R-O-M-A. Roma wines by America's greatest vintner.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Dan Duryea in The Will to Power, a tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
At the inquest, there was some talk of an autopsy, but the old man's prestige and a crew of lawyers preserved the body in a state of unmarred dignity at the request of the grief-stricken widow. That's just the way they put it, too. The day after the funeral, we were married, quietly, no publicity. Well, there I was. I had all the old man's dough, and I had her. I don't know what it was that made me go on. Maybe it was the reading of the will that made me go through with my original plans. $1 million? Well, now we know better. In one safety deposit box alone, there was over $400,000 in cash. And then there were the estates. Compared to that kind of money and what it meant to me, she was just another dame. James Donovan was poisoned and then pushed out the window. I suggest you dig up the body.
What? Who's this speaking?
I work in the hotel. The night before Donovan was killed, his wife threatened him. Ask anyone on the floor. They'll tell you how Donovan and his wife always fought.
Now, look, suppose you come down here.
That's all, Lieutenant. Dig him up. The second part was in the works, and now all I had to do was to sit back and wait. I was on my way to being the sole owner of the Donovan millions, standing alone on top of a mountain, with everyone looking up at me. Everyone looking up at me. What's the idea dragging us down here, Lieutenant? Treating us like a pair of common criminals?
What is it you want of us?
You'll
Lieutenant?
get the idea in just a minute now. Just don't get excited.
Not get excited? Why, of all of...
It's mighty strange the guy falls out of a window with two people in the room.
What do you mean, strange? We were on the other side of the room. Accidents will happen.
Sure, I know. I was at the inquest, too. What I really wanted to ask you was, where were you before he fell out?
I told you. I'd just come in.
I see. You were out before.
Why, yes. I'd gone...
Can you prove that?
What?
Can you prove that you weren't in the apartment any length of time before the accident?
Yes, I guess so. I hadn't seen him all day. Sure, I guess I could prove it. But why?
And how about you, Mrs. Donovan?
Listen, Lieutenant, if you have something to tell us, let's hear it. Otherwise, let us go.
Okay, brother. We dug up old man Donovan. He had enough poison in him to kill an ox.
Poison?
Poison? Why, that's impossible. He couldn't have been poisoned. Mrs. Donovan was up there with him all the time.
Oh, she was?
Of course. He couldn't have been poisoned.
I see.
Can we go now?
Yeah, sure, you can go. Mrs. Donovan will have to wait, though. We're booking her for murder.
It was perfect. They indicted her for second-degree murder. That was a smart move on the part of the DA, because he couldn't conclusively prove whether the fall or the poison killed him. And then she swore to high heaven that she didn't see him drink anything while she was there. The lawyer who was trying to prove suicide almost broke a blood vessel. The best part came when the prosecution tried to get me to testify for them. I showed them our marriage license then. It convinced her that I was trying to protect her. But it gave the DA all the motive he needed.
The jury finds the defendant guilty of murder in the second degree.
There was only one more step left. I had to face her in her cell.
You got 5 minutes, mister.
Darling,
Charlie. Oh, Charlie, I've been waiting for you to come.
I'm still in a daze, Roseanne. How did it all happen? The trial, the conviction. It all went so fast.
Oh, I don't know how it happened, but maybe it's better this way. At least part of what we did has been paid for. When I get out, we'll be able to live a free life together.
But 10 years? No, darling. I'm going to tell them.
No.
I'm going to confess everything. I'll do that rather than see you wasting away in prison.
No. No, you're not. You'll just be trading places with me. It'll be punishment enough if we're deprived of each other's love. No, Charlie, this is the only way it can be. And 10 years isn't so long. And I know you'll always be mine, no matter where I am.
Yes, darling. No matter where you are, I'll always be yours. I really felt bad about it, too. But you've got to compromise in life. I traded in a thing I wanted for something I wanted more. Money and power. It was right there in the palm of my hand. And all I did was make a fist. I headed up to one of the old man's hideouts in the White Mountains then to let things cool off. There I wanted to plan all the things I'd do during the coming weeks. It would have been a great time, except for that phone call. Yes?
Hello, Mr. Ross. I was reading about Mrs. Donovan's trial, Mr. Ross.
Who is this?
The old man was really poisoned, huh? And you running off, leaving your wife to take a rap.
Who is this?
Tell you what, for $25,000, no one will ever know about you sneaking out of the apartment that day.
I think you'd better come up here and see me in person.
Okay. I'll be up tomorrow night at 9.
Why not tonight?
You'll be there if you know what's good for you, brother.
Blackmail. I knew what to do, and paying him wasn't the answer. Once I began to pay, he'd then have the power that belonged to me. He'd pull the strings. This man, whoever he was, could degrade me and humiliate me more than I'd ever been degraded while serving the old man. I heard the car drive up at a little after 9. I'd left the front door open and sat in the living room, waiting for him. He walked in.
Hello, Mr. Ross.
It was the elevator man.
Well, Mr. Ross. Got a pretty classy setup here. My. Poor Mr. Donovan. Sure is a shame when a guy has to leave all that money behind.
Get to the point or get out.
Brother, from now on, you're going to treat me with respect. What I know can send you straight to the chair.
Keep talking.
I saw you sneak out of Donovan's apartment a couple of hours before he died. I saw you pull your act in the lobby so the dame would be alone with the old man. It's pretty clear the way you framed her at the trial. But you didn't fool me for a minute.
What's the count?
Well, I figure you're working the babe for plenty, so, seeing the paper said that Donovan left a flock of millions, $25,000 will do for a start.
You know I haven't got that kind of money here.
How much have you got?
Well, I guess there ought to be $1,600, $1,700 in a wall safe. But look here, if
Get it.
And what do I get in return?
Keep quiet for a while.
For a while.
That's it. Seeing I'm such a valuable guy, I figure you ought to put me on a payroll. Make me sort of a private secretary, like you was to old man Donovan.
I think I understand.
Yeah, you bet you understand. Now get the dough. And fast.
Yes, I see now. I think I see the whole picture. I walked over to the safe and began to dial the numbers. Before I snapped it open, I turned round to look at him. He was leaning back in the easy chair at the end of the room. His greasy face was covered with a shrewd smile, and he was pouring that silly little revolver in his right hand. It looked like a 1900 Ivor Johnson .22 caliber with a 2-inch barrel. I took that, and the fact that there were about 40 feet between us in at a glance. Unless that guy was an Annie Oakley, he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from that position, and with that gun...
All right. Quit stalling. Open it.
I snapped open the little safe, and there it was. I could see Colt Super 38 Automatic stamped on the blued surface of the slide. The hammer was back, just as I knew the old man had left it. I snapped off the safety and brought the sights in line between our eyes.
Hey, wait! Don't! The ladder! The ladder!
He lay there on the floor. I looked down at him, and I had this strange feeling that I'd overlooked something. I'd hidden his car in the garage and gotten rid of the body. In the cellar under 2 feet of dirt. Maybe I should have left him alone. I could have pleaded self-defense. But no. After Donovan, another trial might not have turned out so well. Now I had to get away. I was really in the clear. Nobody'd ever look under those boards in the cellar. Nobody'd ever dare to snoop around Donovan's place. My place. Not unless they suspect something. And why should anyone suspect anything? Not in my house. My house. In a minute, I'd be off this dirt road and on the highway to New York. Yes, that's it. Back to New York. Then out of the country. What the... Hey, you. How about pulling out of the road and letting me by?
You seem to be in an awful hurry, mister.
Who is it? Why don't you...
How about letting me see your driver's license, huh? Well, if it isn't Mr. Ross.
Why, Lieutenant Braden, what's the trouble?
Oh, no trouble at all. As a matter of fact, I just came up here to talk to you. Sort of a social call.
Well, right now I'm going to New York. I mean, I can't. You see,
Lieutenant... Mr. Ross, I never had a chance to talk to you after the trial. I got a little theory about Donovan's death. Oh, it's too late to do anything about it now, of course, but I thought it might be nice if we could sort of discuss it.
Sure. Any time except now. I'm in a great hurry.
So I thought I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
What?
Well, some crank sent me a letter, see, saying he was coming up here to see you. It seems he thought that you might kill him.
A letter?
Yeah, it probably didn't mean a thing, but, well, you're a rich man now, Mr. Ross. You'll just have to get used to being a target for cranks.
A letter. That's what he meant. The letter.
What's the matter, Mr. Ross? You don't look so good. Yeah, there's nothing to be afraid of. I tell you what. Your house ain't far from here. Let you and me take a little stroll up there and see if that crank has arrived, huh? It'll make you feel better.
Oh, I'm all right. Just let me go.
No. I insist. It'll set your mind at ease. Okay? Come on, let's go.
The cop didn't have any trouble finding him at all. I guess Roseanne will get the money after all now, when she gets out. It's too bad, really.
Suspense. Presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma, America's favorite wine. This is Ken Niles returning to our Suspense microphone with the star of tonight's play, Dan Duryea. Dan, I've noticed in your last few pictures that you've forsaken the cloak of villainy to play the hero.
Yes, Ken, I have managed to qualify for a love scene or 2 lately, in spite of my wicked reputation.
Well, then I'm afraid we've done you wrong tonight, casting you as the villain.
No, on the contrary, Ken. I don't want to be a hero on Suspense. Look at what happened to the good guy tonight. Poisoned. Pushed out of a window in a couple of minutes flat.
Well, maybe you're right, Dan, but heel or hero for your fine performance tonight, you rate a reward. So here's a gift basket of Roma wines with thanks from Roma, America's greatest vintner.
Oh, thank you, Ken. And Roma. I'll be glad to be a villain on Suspense anytime.
And you'll be glad to have Roma California Sherry on hand when guests drop in. Just serve the Roma Sherry in your gift basket and watch the smiles of enjoyment appear at the first sip of this better-tasting Roma wine. Remember, too, Roma Sherry is the perfect first call for dinner. A delightful treat anytime.
I know that about Roma Sherry, Ken.
But do you know why Roma Sherry tastes better? Well, to begin with, Roma selects and presses the choicest, most luscious grapes in all California. Then the ancient skill of Roma vintners with America's finest winemaking resources guides this rich treasure unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, at peak taste richness, Roma selects from the world's greatest reserves of fine wines for your pleasure. That's why more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
What better reason? Thank you, Ken, and good night.
Thank you, Dan Duryea.
Dan Duryea appeared through the courtesy of Universal International Studios and is currently being seen in their production White Tie and Tails. Tonight's suspense play was written by Frank Talbot. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Miss Joan Bennett as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System. Roma wines taste better because only Roma selects from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. And now, Roma Wines, R-O-M-A. Roma Wines present
Suspense. Tonight, Roma Wines bring you Miss Joan Bennett in Overture in 2 keys. A suspense play produced, edited, and directed for Roma Wines by William Spear.
Suspense, radio's outstanding theater of thrills, is presented for your enjoyment by Roma Wines. That's R-O-M-A, Roma Wines. Those better-tasting California wines enjoyed by more Americans than any other wine. For friendly entertaining, for delightful dining. Yes, right now, a glassful would be very pleasant as Roma Wines bring you Joan Bennett in a remarkable tale of
Suspense.
Are you feeling any better now?
You know what I've been wondering, lying here?
What's that, Mrs. Allen?
Are you really a nurse?
Why, of course.
Oh, that stuff you keep giving me to make me sleep, it doesn't.
You'd be asleep in no time, Mrs. Allen, if you'd only make up your mind to it. It's all in your mind, you know.
That's funny. You saying that to me.
Now then, Mrs. Allen, you mustn't keep talking.
That's how it was with him. All in his mind. That's why I couldn't help him. That's why nobody in the world could help him. I know that now. But I couldn't bring myself to admit it until last night. You know where I was last night? I was at the Hollywood Bowl. It should have been the proudest night of my life. I was waiting for my husband to enter the stage and take his place as the leader of a great orchestra. Yes, I should have felt proud, but all I could feel was fear. It wasn't a new fear. It was an old fear, as old as our lives together. It began nearly 2 years ago. Ira and I had driven to the Pasadena station to meet a new pupil of his in from the east. I didn't have any reason to believe that this new arrival would be any different from the dozens of others who come every year to live with us and study music with my husband. Ira, I don't see him anywhere. Don't you know what he looks like?
Huh? What's that, my dear?
Oh, never mind. There, that looks like it might be him over there.
Excuse me. Are you looking for Professor Whitmer?
Oh, Professor Whitmer. Yeah, I'm Mark Allen.
You'll have to talk to my wife. I can't hear you just now.
Glad to know you, Mrs. Whitmer.
How do you do?
You know those streamlined hearing devices you see advertised in the papers all the time, Mr. Allen?
I have one, but like an idiot, I left it at home.
Well, that's something Beethoven would have liked to have been able to say, Professor.
Yes. But you know, Mr. Allen, I think he'd rather have put up with being plain deaf.
Excuse me, sir, but what about your bag, sir?
We have our car with us, Mr. Allen.
Right. Just take him to the car, will you?
Would you look after Mr. Allen's bag, my dear?
I just did. It's the one right here. Just put the bags in the back.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Here you are.
Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you.
I guess we can all ride in the front, can't we?
After you, Mrs. Whitmer.
See, Mr. Allen, my wife takes care of everything. That's what poor old Beethoven needed. Good, dependable wife.
Is this your first visit to California, Mr. Allen?
That's right. Never been further west than Chicago before in my life.
Well, you'll find the climate a nice change anyway.
What about you, Mrs. Whitmer? You, native California?
Not exactly, but the professor and I have lived here ever since we were married.
It's a great tragedy. A great conductor losing his hearing like that.
It doesn't worry him so much, now that he has his own protégés.
Must be hard on you, though, sometimes.
Why should it be hard on me?
Oh, I just thought it might be. That's all. By the way, what's your first name, Mrs. Whitmer?
Why, Francie.
You mind if I call you that? Sometimes?
Why, of course not. You can call me anything you like, Mr. Allen. Ira, there's the bell.
Huh? What's that, my dear?
There's a train coming.
Oh, yes. Thank you, my dear. I hope I didn't give you a scare, Mr. Allen. I really shouldn't be driving without that full device. My dear, would you like to drive?
You drive. We're almost home now anyway.
Is this where we live?
Uh-huh. This is Brooksville.
Nice little town we live in.
I certainly hope you'll enjoy it, Mr. Allen.
I'm sure I will, Francie.
That's all there was to it. And yet if he'd asked me to go away with him to Timbuktu that night, I'd have gone. But he didn't. He didn't ask me anything. He just watched me. Not like the musical genius he was supposed to be. He was rough and hard and strong. A kid from the wrong side of the tracks. A kid like me. And I was watching him. I was watching him all the time until one morning, Ira had gone into L.A. for the day. I was in the kitchen washing up the breakfast dishes. And he was supposed to be up in his room composing, but he wasn't composing any more than I was washing dishes. He was waiting for me to go up to him. He didn't have to wait long. Oh, pardon me.
Why, come on in, Mrs. Whitmer.
I was looking for my husband.
He, went to the concert at the Philharmonic.
He did? Oh, I wanted him to do an errand for me.
Well, that's too bad.
Oh, well, it'll have to wait until next week now, I suppose.
He, might remember and call you.
He might. That's nice. What's it called?
It's an overture. Overture in 2 keys.
Oh.
You asked me that before. At breakfast. Remember?
Oh, yes, so I did. I'd forgotten. But look at me. Why, the professor would kill me if he caught me wasting your time like this.
Maybe that's one reason you waited until he was out of the way.
Well.
You want to hear the other reason? It's been on your mind ever since that first day at the station. Only you figured you'd wait. Let me make the first move. It's the way a dame always figures. Until she meets the right guy.
Meaning you?
I don't mean Santa Claus.
What does that make me?
Come here, darling.
You like to play hard to get, don't you?
Am I so hard to get?
I've been going crazy.
What do you think I've been doing? When does he get back?
Late.
How late?
Never before 6.
Hello, darling.
6 o'clock came too soon that night. It always came too soon. I think I dreaded that clock more than I dreaded Ira. We couldn't cheat on the clock. But with Ira, well, taking care of Ira wasn't a problem for any Einstein. But Mark was the one who had to do it. Mark had to fix it so that earphones or no earphones, Ira would be deaf as an adder. Sometimes I couldn't understand why Mark got so upset over that part of it. He used to tell me that I never would understand. I wasn't a musician and I wasn't deaf. Well, anyway, I had plenty of other things to feel bad about. We both did. We were like two shipwrecked sailors dying of thirst, and all we got to drink was salt water. You can stand that kind of thirst just so long. Hello.
Hello yourself.
Keep on playing.
Oh. Isn't he gone yet?
He just called off his L.A. appointment.
What's up?
Oh, he thinks he's in for the flu or something. Anyway, he's staying home all day.
Lock the door, baby. Keep the germs out.
Mark.
Yeah?
He was talking about you. He said you decided to cut the course.
I've taken in all about all he can teach me. Besides, the dough's running short.
You're lying. But I'm glad you're lying. Mark, take me with you. We can go away together.
Where?
New York, Chicago, it doesn't matter.
He'd follow us. You know that. The kind of guy who'd track us down to the end of the earth.
I wouldn't mind.
I would. I'd mind plenty.
You mean your career as the great conductor?
That makes me a heel, doesn't it?
That makes you like the rest of them. That's all Ira thinks about, his career. He cares about as much for me as...
Okay. So far as the law is concerned, you're Professor Whitmer's wife. And there isn't anything we can do about it.
Isn't there, Mark?
Nothing that makes sense.
Mark.
Does it make any sense to you?
I've thought about it.
You wanted to hear me say it, though, didn't you?
Don't look at me like that.
Then you'd be sure I was crazy about you.
Mark.
Come here.
If we only didn't feel this way every time.
But we do. Don't we?
Every time.
Hello, darling.
Ira.
I must apologize for lowering myself to the role of an eavesdropper.
Ira, please.
Then it's also regrettable that you, Mr. Allen, should presume that my affliction would affect my powers of observation. Or for that matter, my tolerance. You will kindly make arrangements to leave my house.
I guess that's about the way it is, Professor.
I've already taken the liberty, or should I say the precaution, of reserving a ticket to New York. We have 40 minutes to get to the Pasadena station.
Ira, I must talk to you.
Undoubtedly, my dear. But Mr. Allen is going to catch his train. I must go get the car. You might help Mr. Allen with his packing.
What time do you have?
5 to 11.
Yeah. We can just make it.
Mark, you're not really going.
Throw me my music case. No, it's right there on the piano.
What about the rest of your junk? Or are you leaving that behind as souvenirs?
It's only until I can send you a forwarding address.
At least you can tell me where you're going.
You heard him. New York. There's the car now.
Mark.
Yeah?
Mark, let me know if you should change your mind.
I won't have to let you know, Francie. I haven't changed my mind.
After he left, I remember looking at the alarm clock beside his bed. It said 11 o'clock. Then I thought about what I'd be doing tomorrow at 11 o'clock, and the day after that, and the next week, and the next year. 11 o'clock for all the rest of my life would be the time he walked out of that door. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't. I just sat there listening to the clock. I must have sat there without moving for hours. Then I heard the bell. My first thought was it was Ira. Automatically, I got up and walked downstairs to answer it.
Good day, ma'am. You Mrs. Whitmer?
That's right.
Lieutenant Scott, police headquarters. Oh, you know this gentleman here?
Oh, yes.
You must get ready for some bad news, Mrs. Whitmer.
My husband?
Yes, ma'am. There's been an accident.
Lieutenant, I'm an old friend of the family. Maybe you better let me tell her.
You'll have to give me some address then, Mr. Allen.
Call me here. Pasadena 1213.
It's only a matter of the next few days, you understand?
I'll stay in town as long as you need me.
Pasadena 1213. All right, Mr. Allen. Good day, Mrs. Whitmer.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Lieutenant.
Mark. Oh, Mark, I thought I was never going to see you again.
Didn't you? I think I want to sit down a minute.
Mark, tell me, what happened? Quickly.
It was pretty terrible. I told him a couple of times to take it easy. We must have done 70 when we hit the main drag, and maybe that's why I didn't recognize where we were. Anyway, I wouldn't have known we were that close to the crossing until I heard the bell. He still had time. If he'd thrown on his brakes when I hollered at him, there would have been all the time in the world. Maybe he thought he could make it, or maybe he just didn't hear me. I don't know. I just don't know. It was too late to grab the wheel. It was too late to do anything. That was when I jumped.
Mark.
The next thing I knew, there were cops all over the place. There was a doc there, too. I'd been here hours ago if I hadn't had to convince them that I didn't need any ambulance.
And Ira?
And those cops, they asked more questions
Mark.
then. Huh?
I asked you about Ira.
Ira didn't need any ambulance either, Francie. He was dead.
For Suspense, Roma Wines are bringing you Joan Bennett in Overture in 2 keys. Roma Wines' presentation tonight in radio's outstanding theater of thrills, Suspense.
Between the acts of Suspense, this is Ken Niles for Roma Wines. These cold, blustery evenings, there's real pleasure in staying comfortably at home, listening to favorite radio programs, reading by the fireplace, and enjoying the mellow pleasure of a fine Roma wine. Yes, better tasting Roma California wines, sherry, port, or muscatel, add warmth and friendliness to quiet evenings and informal entertaining. And because Roma wines taste better, more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine. Roma wines taste better because Roma begins with choicest grapes. Then, with patient skill and America's finest winemaking resources, Roma guides these choice grapes unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, along with Roma wines of years before, this rich grape treasure awaits selection from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. So share with your friends these better tasting Roma wines. Insist on Roma, R-O-M-A, Roma wines.
And now, Roma Wines bring back to our Hollywood soundstage Joan Bennett as Francie Whitmer, with Howard Duff as Mark Allen in Overture in 2 keys. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
They held the inquest at the house. It took the coroner less than 3 minutes to return the verdict. Accidental death. I thought we should wait, but Mark said it wouldn't make any difference. If people were going to talk, they'd talk anyway. So a couple of weeks later, we drove down to Yuma and got married. During the ceremony, I felt a little like laughing and much more like crying. And let me tell you, if you ever get married in one of those Yuma wedding chapels, you'll feel like crying, too. On the outside, there are neon lights to tell you how they do business day and night. And on the inside, everything is strictly like a funeral parlor. Artificial lilies, incense, and, of course, an organ.
And do you, Francie Whitmer, take this man as your lawfully wedded husband to happen to hold from this day forward?
I do.
And do you, Mark Allen, take this woman as your lawfully wedded wife?
Mark.
What?
I do.
I repeat, do you, Mark Allen, take this woman?
Yes.
To happen to hold from this day forward until death do you part?
I
do. Poor Mark. I kidded him afterwards about fluffing his lines, and he acted very serious about the whole thing and tried to make out that he didn't hear that particular part. Well, I guess every man thinks that those words are written just to make him nervous, and every woman thinks they are written just for her. At least I know I did. At first, we were as happy as any two people could possibly be. And then, it wasn't that anything changed, but I began to worry about Mark. It was as though he were expecting something. Sometimes when he thought I wasn't watching him, it almost seemed as though he were listening for something. A couple of nights ago, we had the party. It was kind of a send-off for Mark's debut at the Bowl. And it was a very Tony affair. All the long...
You can just imagine my humiliation, Mr. Allen. Right in the middle of Mimi's death scene, too. And after afterwards, he had the nerve to tell me there was nothing wrong with his voice. It was stage fright. Oh, I could have slaughtered that tenor.
If you'll excuse me, Madam Tetra, I think my wife wants
Oh, there, darling.
Fran, can't we get rid of these people?
Eventually, I suppose.
Here comes Donnelly. Maybe he'll know how to cut it short.
Well, it looks like a good party. You see, Mrs. Allen, you get an important manager, and all the important artists visit your home.
Now can you get them all out of my home?
Oh, no, you can't disappoint your public, Mark. What about playing something to sort of wind up the evening, eh? How about the Overture? I know it won't sound on the piano, but after all, it is effective. Now, where is he going?
You asked him to wind up the evening, didn't you?
But how can I make an announcement if he doesn't tell me what he's going to play?
Of course, it wasn't anything important. Phone calls that come at a moment like that never are. It was just someone who wanted to wish Mark good luck tomorrow night. I said thanks and hung up. It wasn't until I was halfway back up the stairs that I knew something had gone wrong.
Oh, my dear, you should have seen his face. It looked more like a stroke to me.
What happened?
There's nothing to be alarmed over, Mrs. Allen.
Where's my husband?
He's upstairs, resting.
What's the matter with him?
Nothing at all, my dear. Really nothing at all. He was a little overtired, so he went upstairs.
If you ask me, Mrs. Allen, it's a plain case of stage fright. Well, I was telling him only that...
I didn't wait for the rest. When I found him, he was just lying there staring into the darkness. I wanted to hold him in my arms and tell him that no matter what, he was my guy. But I didn't. I didn't say a word, and neither did he. It seemed like a long while later when I woke up. I didn't want to wake up. I was tired, dead tired, so tired that waking up hurt me all over. Only this time it hurt more than usual. Then suddenly I was sitting upright in bed, with a chill running straight up my spine. The sound came from the music room. I fumbled for the light, but that didn't tell me anything I didn't know already. Mark's bed was empty. Somehow I got out of bed and walked downstairs. I kept walking, till I was standing outside the music room door. If I'd been standing at the bar of judgment, I would have still said the same prayer, that the door would be locked, but it wasn't locked. The room was in darkness, except for the small lamp on the floor. And there, looking like something out of a horror picture, sat my husband. I couldn't see his face, only his hands flying up and down in the lamplight. His knuckles were wet with blood. Mark! 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 Oh, darling, I had to do it. I had to do something.
Talk to me. Keep on talking to me.
What do you want me to say?
Just keep talking. And hold my hand.
Your hands, oh, darling, look at your hands. Mark, tell me what's wrong. I don't understand. Everything was fine until I left the room to answer the phone.
Was it a phone bell? I didn't hear any phone.
Mark.
I wouldn't have even known you'd come upstairs if it hadn't been for your perfume. Even then, I didn't believe it. Then I came down here. I played like this. I couldn't hear. And I played louder. I still couldn't hear. I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear.
Darling, don't. You're all right now. Mark, it's awfully late.
What time is it?
4 o'clock in the morning.
It's funny. You do it, too.
What did I do?
Listen to see if your watch is going. Must be a reflex action. Even he did it.
Mark.
Always reminded me of Nelson putting his telescope to his blind eye. I don't suppose you understand about that. Even if you'd loved him, you'd never have known what it meant for a musician. To be deaf.
Mark, there's only one thing I know or care about. I don't care about anything else in this world. I just don't care.
Fran?
Yes?
You know, don't you?
Yes, Mark.
You've always known, haven't you?
Yes, I suppose I have.
I'm sorry, Fran. For you.
Oh, Mark, I told you I don't care. I don't care about anything but you.
has an awful sound. Murder.
As I sat watching him walk across the great stage of the Hollywood Bowl, I wanted to pray, but I knew I hadn't even the right to do that. All I could do was think of what he must be thinking, how he must have timed it to the split second, how he must have snipped the wire on the earphone so Ira wouldn't notice it, how he must have felt when they were coming to the railroad crossing and he heard the warning bell and Ira couldn't. Ira couldn't hear anything. Mark had planned it that way. He had killed my husband because he couldn't hear a little bell. Let me through, please. Please, I have to get through.
I'm sorry, lady. Mr. Allen isn't receiving any visitors.
I'm his wife.
Oh, of course. This way, Miss Allen.
Oh, thank heaven.
Really, I must...
That's all right, Doctor. Mrs. Allen, the press are outside. You must talk to them.
Mark.
I heard the bell.
Darling, it's all right. It's all right. I'm here with you. It's me, Francie.
Didn't you hear it? It began to ring as I entered the stage. It was the bell.
It took us an hour to get him to make any sense, and then suddenly he was all right as I've ever seen him in my life. The doctor was as pleased as an old midwife and insisted that it was the sedative that had done the trick. I wish he'd been right, but you see, by then I was beginning to see what was wrong with Mark, and I knew that all the doctors in the world wouldn't do him any good. But I still dared to hope that somehow I could.
All right, come on, let's go.
Well, don't you want me to drive home?
Oh, I'm okay now.
Oh, Mark.
Oh, you mustn't cry, baby. I'm okay now.
Oh, that's why I can cry, you goof. Mark.
Yeah?
Let's go away from here right away to Canada or someplace for a year, longer if you want. Even if you don't even look at a note of music, it doesn't matter. You'll be right away from everything, and then it won't happen anymore. I know it. If you'll only get away, right away. Even from me, if that would help.
Where shall we go? Florida? New York?
Oh, darling.
You know, it's about time you saw something else but palm trees. Let's make it New England. Up around Vermont or something. We'll have to get you a sleeping bag or you die of cold.
I love you.
Me too.
Why don't you let me drive?
You can't with one hand.
I can, too. Mark, you know, I was wondering, can you get double sleeping bags in Vermont? Mark, you better slow down if you...
Yeah, maybe Canada.
Mark, we're coming to the crossing. There's a train.
Up there.
Mark!
They say you can almost hear how quiet it is some places in the woods up there.
Mark! Mark! That's how the music ended. They told me today that he was dead before they got us to the hospital. I'm going to live. Isn't that swell?
Suspense.
presented by Roma Wines, R-O-M-A, Roma, America's favorite wines. This is Ken Niles returning to our stage with a lovely star of tonight's suspense play, glamorous favorite of movie-going millions, but a newcomer to suspense fans, Miss Joan Bennett. Welcome to the Suspense family, Joan, and congratulations. Your performance was wonderful.
Thank you, Ken, but I'd like to share some of the compliments with Howard Duff, who played the composer so wonderfully.
And as a token of our appreciation, here's a gift basket of Roma wines from Roma, America's greatest vintner.
Thank you, Ken, and thanks to Roma.
Among the fine Roma wines in your gift basket, Joan, is Roma Muscatel, a wine to add warmth to your welcome when friends drop in. A delightful taste treat with desserts, too. Rich in the tempting fragrance and distinctive taste of the world-famous Muscat grape, better-tasting Roma Muscatel is a mellow, satisfying wine born in California, praised by Americans from coast to coast.
Yes, Ken, Roma Muscatel certainly is delicious.
And here's why, Joan. Roma Muscatel, like all Roma wines, begins with choicest grapes. Then Roma vintner skill and America's finest winemaking resources guide these luscious grapes unhurriedly to tempting taste perfection. Later, along with Roma wines of years before, this rich grape treasure awaits selection from the world's greatest wine reserves for your pleasure. No wonder more Americans enjoy Roma than any other wine.
You've convinced me. And now may I remind our listeners of something? 1946 saw the worst epidemic in 30 years of infantile paralysis. We must fight this brutal child crippler and guarantee medical care and treatment to all victims. Join the March of Dimes. Send your dimes and dollars care of your local March of Dimes headquarters today. Thank you and good night.
Joan Bennett appeared through the courtesy of Diana Productions, producers of The Secret Beyond the Door. Tonight's suspense play was written by Pamela Wilcox and Malvin Wall. Next Thursday, same time, you will hear Roddy McDowell as star of Suspense.
Produced and directed by William Spear for the Roma Wine Company of Fresno, California. Stay tuned for the thrilling adventures of the FBI in Peace and War, following immediately over most of these stations. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.